Welcome back to another episode of the Working Joe's podcast with me, Zack, and my co-host Ralph Wolf. And don't forget to download the podcast on Android using Stitcher or Podcast Addict, or if you have an Apple phone, use iTunes. Welcome back to the Working Joe's podcast. I am Zack right alongside Ralph, stay bright, don't stay dumb, Wolf. How are you?
What's going on there, Zack?
Well, I'm just brainstorming cool names, man. What are you doing?
Hey, I like it, but you messed mine up because I never do stay bright.
No stay bright, no stay bright 8.
No stay bright 8.
I used it in the backyard one time. It was all right.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna say I had never done it, but you know, everybody uses seal fall, so
Man.
you know.
Do you use what do you use when you change out the water heaters?
Oh, I use regular solder then.
You just get the plumber stuff?
Yep.
Just like a plumber.
Just like a plumber, and it looks just like a plumber when I'm done.
Hey, man. A man of many talents.
Well, the experienced plumbers anyway, because the inexperienced ones, I know I'm going to get hell for this. The inexperienced guys use shark bites.
I thought you might say shark bites, actually. You know, when I see shark bites, I think of a guy who is maybe not as good as other guys.
Yeah, you know, that guy that I do flip houses for, he's got this one guy that works for him. He was putting in a new valve for the tub. It was in the wall.
Oh, no.
Well, guess what he used?
Must have been a shark bite.
Shark bite. I told him, rip that stuff out of there. And I was going to show him how to solder. Because no way do you ever put shark bites in a wall.
That's
you know,
bad.
It kills me. Yes, it is. But it kills me because that guy, he used shark bite fitting for everything. The toilet valves. Every valve in that house was a shark bite valve. Every coupling was a shark bite. Any place he put pipe together was a shark bite. And I told my buddy, the guy that does the houses, I've known this guy forever. Our kids, he actually owns a daycare or several daycares. And my oldest son was in pre-K with his oldest son. And my youngest son went to the same daycare, you know, pre-K deal. So I've known him for a long time. And he's actually my oldest customer. So, and I tell him, I said, Jeff, dude, what's the story? You're letting Patrick actually look how much money you're having to spend on those fittings. He said, yeah, but I don't have to pay him a whole lot, so it don't really matter. It all works out.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That is really bad. Well, I hope you took the time to teach the guy how to solder before you left. So what else have you been up to besides teaching plumbers how to do plumbing?
Oh, well, you know, he's kind of a handyman kind of deal. He wants to learn how to do everything. But I've just been doing this and doing that, and I got a pretty cool story about what happened the other day at the supply house.
Do tell.
Well, it's got, you know, there's something about our trade. And it's the one trade where a lot of the guys think that, you know, it's funny because most of the people in our trade hate the government and what it stands for, and they complain because we have to, you know, follow all these laws but when it comes time to protect the trade, they're all for it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Regulation sometimes, but not at other times, right?
Right. The government shouldn't tell me what to do, but the government should tell you what to do. You know, So the reason I bring this up is because the other day I was in the Pro Talk Facebook group, and somebody put up a sign, and it was like from a supply house about, you know, no homeowners allowed, no blah, 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 blah. And don't even come in and ask why. And then it had all these comments, and I was like, man, that's, you know, I don't care if a homeowner buy stuff from a supply house. I really don't care because I know my supply house, they mark it up. First of all, they're not getting a wholesale price. Where if I pay, $5 for something, they're going to pay 45 or 50 for that same thing. So, so be it. So let them make their extra money on it. And they tell them no warranty. And I see it. If they didn't come down to the supply house and buy the stuff, they buy it on eBay or Amazon. We're not going to stop that kind of stuff. So I figure, you know what? That homeowner is just a person, just like me, or just like you, or just like anybody that's listening. They're just people, just trying to save money or whatever. And the people that want to work on their own stuff, they're a small percentage of the population.
This is true. It's really
You know what I
small
mean?
percentage. Like I go work on my car every now and then, but not all the time.
Right. I mean, I hardly work on my truck anymore. Shoot, I don't even change the oil in that stupid thing. I'll take it somewhere and let them change it. It's almost as cheap,
Yeah.
you know. I work all the time. I don't need to prove to anybody that I know how to change my own oil.
All
I'll let
right.
that guy do it.
Yeah. The last time I really changed a whole lot of oils when I had my Mustang when I was a kid. I'd pull it
Right.
over the top of the ditch. I'd get in the ditch and change the oil. But as
Yep.
I've grown up, I have less of a wanting to do anything like that. I don't even want to cut the grass.
I don't
I
either.
really hate it.
Oh, I do too. So here's a good example of not getting mad at a homeowner and being a jerk to them when they're in a supply house. The other day I was in a supply house, and a guy was in there, and he had a 50/3 run capacitor. Well, the guy behind the counter asked me, he said, "Well, can I use the 50/5? Because we don't have any 50/3s." And I was like, "No, you need a 3. You really need to put a 3 back in there." He's like, "Well, we don't have any." I said, "Well, give him a single 50 and then give him a single 3." "Well, we don't have any single 50s." And I was like, "Well, give him a 50/5 and then give him a single 3." I asked him if he knew how to wire it up. He said, "Yeah, he could do it." So I was like, "Cool," you know.
Yeah.
And so I went on about my own business. Well, that was like a Thursday. Well, Monday, I get this text, and he's telling me that he needs, and I didn't know it was from him. I just get a text, and he's like, "Well, my air's not working at my house, and could you please call me?" Blah 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 blah. So I called the guy up, and he said, "I don't know if you remember me or not, but I was at the supply house the other day buying a capacitor." And I was like, "The guy with the 50/3?" He said, "Yeah, that's me." I said, "Yeah, what's going on?" He said, "Well, my compressor won't turn on. I just need to get the system replaced." And my
Oh,
price, and he remembered me. I never told him my name or anything. I guess he just saw it on my shirt. My price was actually more than some of the other prices that he got.
wow. But you made a great impression on him at the supply house, lending a helping hand.
Apparently.
That's nice, though. That's really nice.
So not only am I doing that system, I'm doing his mother-in-law's too.
Wow. 2 systems.
2 systems just for being nice to the guy.
Huh. Well,
So
that is pretty nice.
I don't understand what the problem is. I don't understand why guys have such a problem with, it's not like you can take this information, this knowledge that you have with you to the grave. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I've been doing it 24 years, and I'm not, you know what? And the funny part about the whole deal? Every Facebook group, somebody is posting a picture of them working at 3 o'clock in the morning, or at 11 o'clock at night, or how busy it is. I'll be glad when it slows down. But those guys are the same guys complaining about homeowners doing work because it's taking work away from them.
That is kind of funny how you see that a lot. But I think there's some I don't know. I don't know if it's insecurity or what. People got to keep verifying to everybody else how worthy they are to be in the group or how much work they have. It's kind of funny, really.
Hey, look, I don't have nothing to prove to anybody. I really don't. I've been doing this for 24 years, And I don't need to prove to anybody that, hey, look at me. Yeah, I put videos on YouTube, but you know, a lot of that for me is marketing. And I don't mind helping the young guys out in the field. Like I said, I can't take it with me. If I was to die tomorrow, I can't take it with me.
No, you can just pass it on.
Yeah, it's not like money. You can't will it to somebody.
No.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you can give them your actual brain if you want to.
You could, but I don't know if it's, I don't know if somebody wants mine.
Hey. By the time we all perish, there could be a scientist that can make the most of that, man.
Disney is on ice right now.
Not the Disney on Ice that everybody's familiar with. It's the actual Disney is on ice. Yes.
Yeah, he's in some pod somewhere.
Oh yeah, just waiting for his day to be reanimated.
Yeah. Speaking of pod somewhere, aren't we talking to a guy who does IAQ?
We sure are. Speaking of pods, we are definitely talking to Scott Russell, I believe is his name. Isn't that right?
That's right. Scott Russell from Ultravation.
Well, that's pretty cool because I know you're really familiar with his products. I am not as familiar. I've used a few UV lights over the years, so I got a great lesson on what Ultravation and just UV in general.
Yeah, and this one I thought was kind of important because I know a lot of guys. There's some naysayers about UV lights and what they'll do and what they won't do or whatever, or they're just junk. But they really do work. I mean, they have been proven to work.
Yeah, we find out on this podcast and then the next podcast exactly how they work, which is fascinating to me.
Well, yeah, and Scott would be happy to answer anybody's questions, and not because he just wants to sell. Because as you heard in the podcast, he says all these brands work.
Yeah, he did. He did say that.
So it's not like he was just trying to sell his product. They do all work. It's just a matter. Well, let's let Scott explain it.
Absolutely. Everybody, this is Scott Russell from Ultravation. Welcome back to the Working Joe's podcast. Me and Ralph are here with Scott Russell from Ultravation, which many guys probably don't know what that is. Ralph is a big proponent of it. I know a little bit about it using their UV lights in the past, but we have Scott here to explain basically we've seen the tip of the iceberg, or I have, with Ultravation. I don't know what else they do. I looked at the website and there's about 1,000 things available, which I know nothing about. So that's why Scott is here. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Ralph, how's it going, man?
Oh, I'm great. After looking at the website, I know, like you said, I'm a little further advanced than you are, Zach. But when we start talking about UV lights and IAQ products, it really is enough to make your head explode if you're trying to figure out what the best thing to put in somebody's house is. I mean, there's just so many options out there. We walk in the supply house, the counter guys really don't know. And so we're left in the, well, what do we do? And then do we get this? Is it going to be right for the customer, for what they got going on? So it's a pretty complicated subject when you start talking about it.
It is. I looked at the website too, and I was going to the website. I'm like, I know what a UV light is. I mean, that's what this is. And I looked at the website, and there was about 13 different UV lights. We got to see great words like oxidation of particles, volatile organic compounds. I don't even know how to say. I guess it's hydroxyl radicals. Scott, you can shed a little bit of light on this stuff. What exactly does Ultravation do in a broad sense? And we'll talk a little bit about some of these products.
Sure. I think the easiest way to explain it is I started Ultravation in the year 2000, and when we started the company, Ultravation literally is innovations in ultraviolet light, and hence the company name. And the idea was to bring a level of education to the marketplace, specifically the contracting marketplace, and then to the consumer level, All of our products need to be professionally installed by contractors. We don't supply anything to the DIY marketplace or anything that should ever be installed by a consumer. So therefore, educating contractors on the benefits of ultraviolet lighting has been our core, if you will, from day one. So as you have seen on our website, we do offer many different products. The reality is, in a geographical area, you'll find that you really end up using 1 to 3 of our products on a daily basis, hopefully. But the bottom line is, most products are made specifically for certain areas of the country. I live in New England, so we have furnaces. I hardly use any air conditioning. I have a basement. Most of our ultraviolet lighting products installed down south in Florida, for example, obviously the systems would be in an attic type location, perhaps. Not a lot of access to these locations, and there's significant runtime of air conditioning. So you can imagine the products that we would use here are nowhere near the products that are commonly sold in that area, and hence the confusion at first from looking at what we have to offer.
Right, because I am in that market, Scott, where we have basements and attics, and I live in Georgia. So we have both of the situations that you're talking about. We have the humidity, we don't have the dryness, you know what I mean? But we do have the attic, and we have the basements and crawl spaces.
The principal premise of everything gets started with, in regards to the ultraviolet lighting, when you have humidity, if you have air conditioning coils are a perfect area, unfortunately, to breed any possible infectious bacteria, microscopic mold spores, algae type growth. For example, if you ever stayed in a hotel room and smelled like that dirty sock kind of smell or anything like that,
right,
coming or emitting from the air conditioning system, that's bacteria going through its life cycle in that air conditioning unit. And it's not just contained to hotels. It's just a good example that everyone can usually relate to.
Is that like the dirty sock syndrome that people talk about?
Exactly. That dirty sock smell, dirty sock syndrome is, and let's face it, you can put in a brand new air conditioning system, and obviously, doing proper maintenance is key. Ultraviolet lighting is an item that can be added to any air conditioning whole house system, and it helps keep the equipment clean from any microbial growth, which obviously enhances the efficiency of the system, reduces electrical costs. But there's a nice odd benefit to all this, and it's called indoor air quality improvement, meaning all of us people are in our homes, especially when it's nice and hot out, 90 plus degree days almost every day, it seems like in Georgia lately. And air conditioning systems are running, recirculating the air in the home. Homes are obviously more efficient than they were 50 years ago. Everything's built tighter. So why wouldn't you want to know that you could have technology that is sterilizing the items in the air as it's passing through your system? So the very basic ultraviolet lighting products are designed to keep the surfaces clean, primarily the air conditioning coils and the blower motor component that's inside every single residential air conditioning system. So keeping those coils clean saves money, extends equipment life, obviously helps a person's health and well-being, because you are sterilizing microorganisms in a fraction of a second, so therefore you're reducing any potential infectious colonies or anything that could cause that lingering musty, mildewy odor, that dirty sock smell, is being sterilized. I always try to tell people, if you think of mold on a piece of bread, ultraviolet lighting will sterilizes that mold 3 days before you ever see it. It's not that kind of item where when you see the mold on a piece of bread and you pick it off. UV lighting stops that at the microscopic level. It can never be allowed to grow to that.
Right.
That makes, just as an example. I try to give some visuals, if you will.
Back in the early days when UV lights first came out, there was the concern of deteriorating the drain pan and the the wires on the motor. I heard somebody talk about this the other day, and I'm like, well, isn't that the different type of UV light, where now we have like UVC lights that doesn't deteriorate the plastics?
No, okay, here's the ultimate answer in the drain pan. Not necessarily a myth, but in some respects the mystery. Over the years, drain pans, thankfully by manufacturer, were upgraded. There was deterioration of drain pans by another source of ultraviolet lighting, which was when any kind of drain pan was in the line of sight of a flame. So if you have a flame and it also emits ultraviolet lighting, or if you will, an ultraviolet light spectrum, and you would have deterioration of those pans. So they simply put Kynar, which is the generic name, the brand name is Teflon, into the pans. That happened in far back in the early, almost like mid-90-ish, and it took a while, I think, for people to catch up in terms of trying to get understanding. Now, there are deterioration of pans that occurred by utilize what you were touching on, a different wavelength of light, which in the very beginning, sometimes people would put intense amounts of ozone producing lamps into systems, and it was actually that, and that was known as a 185 nanometer ultraviolet light, and not to be confusing, but the UVC spectrum, the UVC is known as 254 nanometer. That 254 nanometer will not emit any ozone gas or anything like that. It just simply sterilizes microorganisms. So
it's
thankfully,
it's not doing damage to wires.
No. Now the thing is, most wires will have, if they have that TFE coating, you're all set. Now, PVC wiring, if it is exposed over time, will be broken down, meaning 10, 15-year type scenario. But simple approach here, and again, remember, these products are installed by air conditioning contractors. So if wires are in the visible path of the UV lighting system, a contractor uses adhesive back metal tape, or believe it or not, simply taking a small section of aluminum foil and crimping it around the wires prohibits the UV energy from getting to the wires, or for the wires to be exposed to the UV light. So again, properly installed, you can put one of these systems in, and you certainly, within the last 15 years, you sincerely have no concern over drain pan degradation with a 254 nanometer or a UVC lighting product. And again, if wires are in the visible path and you're not sure if it has the Teflon coating, real simple, aluminum foil or adhesive back metal tape, and you're all set.
Well, that's really interesting. I like that. It's almost like a tinfoil hat. I had a furnace that someone had put a UV light in the blower section of the furnace, and I knew that was incorrect, and it was kind of surprised me, and I saw all the wiring's exposed, obviously, in that section. So I moved it to the coil side. So would you clarify, are they designed to be on the return side of a coil, inside like an A coil, or can it be in the supply ductwork, or does it matter?
Typically, now this does change a little bit geographically speaking, but to try to simplify it, usually you're looking at putting ultraviolet lighting on the exit side of a coil. Now, down south, in where you guys are, coils sometimes have different shapes. You have a coil or W-shaped coil. It's very common, and don't forget, it's not just one ultraviolet lamp. We make in the industry, people make one stick UV lamps, and they make two lamp products and things along that nature. So sometimes you're putting an ultraviolet lighting system on the inside of the A coil, and you're also installing the UV lighting so it'll shine on the path of the blower motor wheel itself, because those wheels are also known to get clogged with the biofilm and biological growth.
Yeah, I want to jump in here just while you're talking about the coils. A lot of manufacturers actually have a knockout in the center of their
Correct.
triangle metal to where you can put a UV light in.
In Vermont, the furnace system, the coil, if we have air conditioning, is going to the very top of everything. The blower motor is far underneath, and in between you're going to have the chambers where the heat is coming from. And here you'll put one lamp on each side of the of the A coil, which is, literally would be different than if you would, how you would install it down south. So it's just one of those, another scenario of why it's installed by a contractor, because you need to know the systems. Now, sometimes too, depending on the shape, again, if you have a W-shaped style coil, contractors will look, and you're seeing a system that's been in use. You're gonna, and thankfully with smartphones now, you can snap a picture, you can look, and if you see biological growth or anything that looks like literally like there's growth there, clean it chemically. Use your coil cleaner, clean that coil, and then apply an ultraviolet lighting system. And it's real simple. You can show the consumer. You can say, listen, this occurs. I can clean it now, but it's going to start to occur again almost literally as soon as I close this back up. The ultraviolet light prevents this from occurring, and there's the beginning right there, because obviously if the microbial growth is occurring in the system, that means from time to time, of course, it's branching off.
I always explain that situation as the is the one place for growth because it's cold, dark, and wet, and it's perfect breeding ground. And so that's how I explain it to customers.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Let's expand it out a little bit. I was mentioning VOC at the beginning, volatile organic compound. This goes into what exactly those are. What spectrum does that cover? These bacteria, and what else could you term a VOC?
Well, sure. Now, VOC is volatile organic compound. So volatile means it's gaseous. For example, you can smell it. So let's think of a nice cup of coffee. It's a VOC, volatile organic compound. Organic means that it simply is something that's natural. So let's just say it came from the earth and it can come back to the earth. And compound is nice because it means it's several things linked together. So when you take a VOC, what we want to do is break it down. So we provide two different types of, it's called photocatalytic oxidation. It's a big word. And the photo part, obviously, light. Light is measured in photons. So it's photo. The catalytic part is we use catalyst material. We either use a high-grade metal catalyst or we use a carbon-based catalyst, depending on the product that we're building. And the oxidation portion comes from the light activating the catalyst material and coming in contact with a VOC, which means you could have a VOC can be a cat's litter box. That's nowhere near as friendly sounding as a cup of coffee, is it?
No.
No.
You could have paints, varnish, burnt cooking odors. You could have pleasant cooking odors. This doesn't discriminate. It breaks down VOCs. You could have sulfur smell from a well. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but that's a common scenario where I'm located. The water running, literally, you have that rotten egg smell in a home. If you have kids, laundry rooms, literally dirty socks and gym shorts and shoes and all that. So VOCs we're surrounded by them. You literally, now unfortunately, let's say you spray a can of air freshener, you would think you're making things better, and perhaps it does smell better than what you were smelling before. But both items are VOC, and the technology that we manufacture, once installed into an air conditioning system, literally converts a heating and air conditioning system into a whole house indoor air quality device. So that's like being able to plug in these small room units that you could buy in any store in every room. So can you imagine? The effect is phenomenal. As once people use this technology, you sometimes have people wonder how they kind of got along without it.
Well, that's what we were reading about on the website. I was looking at, and I have it written here on my little piece of paper, photocatalytic. So you have these light-activated catalysts. Now, these metals, I was reading, is it titanium oxide?
Yeah, titanium dioxide. Now, and the nice part about all of this technology, very environmentally friendly. Titanium dioxide comes from corals in the ocean, is one source, but just for example, now it's used in sunscreen, lip balm. It's what's in the more expensive makeup for ladies. It attracts the light and it almost like gives that makeup that glowing effect, if you will. So the titanium dioxide, and again, in whitening toothpaste and things like that. So the reality is you could ingest it if you wanted to, but there's no need to. Because when you put this material together, you're transmitting the electrons from that ultraviolet light source into that material. It creates these hydroxyl radicals that are in the air. They travel through the air, and they simply like to attach themselves to any of these available items or odors. Let's just think of it like that. Could be odors, could be bacteria, microscopic, and mind you, it's attaching to these things. A conversion process takes place, and you get the advanced oxidation, meaning it was going to happen anyways. Think of that cup of coffee. Smell a fresh cup of coffee today. If you let it set in that conference room table, if you will, for a few hours, you're not going to smell it anymore. And after a few days, you have to really get it. You'd have to grab that cup and hold it up to your nose, and you might not even be able to tell that it once, contained coffee. Yeah.
That's interesting. So it actually attaches, and does it create a different compound when these two come together?
Yes, the end result is hydrogen and carbon dioxide. So to give it a layman explanation, you're getting minuscule water vapor production, and so in the production of carbon dioxide. Now the minuscule water, and it's a divisionary process. So the end result for, let's say, breaking down this coffee odor in the air, the end result is smaller, of course, than what you started with. So you're not going to end up with like moisture buildup on on your equipment or walls or anything like that. It's just simple physics at work, and the catalyst materials will last 8-10 years, sometimes even longer, and they're very effective depending on the concentration levels. So concentration levels would be if you had say you were working on cigarette smoke, and so you had 5 guys playing poker, and the guys are smoking cigars. Obviously, that room is now under a heavy load of VOCs of that smoke. So the product's going to work to eradicate that smoke. Now, when those guys are done playing cards and nothing's taking place, and someone has a nice vase of flowers and maybe a little potpourri or what have you, the technology is still working, but it's only going to work on what's there in terms of the VOCs to break down. So meaning it doesn't off-gas or give anything hazardous that's going to affect a human body or anyone's breathing and things like that. So it's very nice, clean, effective technology.
I kind of want to move on to the different products y'all have. Like your PhotoMax, your UV PhotoMax is like your flagship product. Is that correct?
Yes, we have the UV PhotoMax product is we introduced that in 2004. It has gone through cosmetic. There's been cosmetic upgrades, if you will, meaning the Ford F-150 of today is based on the Ford F-150 of yesterday, of course. But the reality, it's the technology is turn the key and then get you down the road, right? So the core technology has stayed the same. The product is adjustable based on the area that it's treating, which contractors love, because you can have let's just say two homes that are, let's just say 2,000 square foot. But if one home that's 2,000 square foot has 5 dogs and 2 cats, and the other home, for example, is new construction and the person's never home, the bottom line is one house has a more of a common load of VOCs than the other home. So you're able to adjust this product, which is amazing, because what you get is the sweet spot of getting rid of any of the odors in the air.
The PhotoMax and the UVCat are kind of in the same category. Now, when I bought mine, I bought the UVCat because the way it was explained to me, and I'd be sensitive. This doesn't create ozone, though, right? The PhotoMax.
No, PhotoMax won't create ozone. What happens, though, with the PhotoMax is if there's not any VOCs, for example, let's say the air was as clean as possible, and the PhotoMax was adjusted to the maximum, meaning it was essentially improperly installed, it will start splitting the oxygen that's in the air because there's nothing for it to work on. So you can get a sensation, or you can tell that the product is working, if you will. You can get a sense of it in the air, because you're basically smelling air that would be exactly the same smell of air that you smell after a lightning strike or, you know, a thunderstorm, things along that nature. So
that
is adjustable. Right. So, I mean, and that is adjustable, and again, should be installed by a contractor, because based on the VOC load, adjusting the product so you're not splitting the oxygen is key. Now, the UV catalyst is more almost, I don't want to say idiot-proof, but
that's in my house.
the reaction occurs. What it is, so the UV catalyst is a carbon filter matrix grid. There's, you know, over 2,000 square inches of surface area of carbon available. Now, the carbon works real simple, just like you would expect a carbon filter to work. It's going to absorb anything that attaches to it. And the UV light, there's titanium dioxide solution is mixed in with this carbon. So the ultraviolet light is disinfecting or oxidizing the carbon. So it's basically cleaning the carbon so the carbon can continue to function without you having to continue to replace carbon filters. So anyone that's ever had carbon filters in a fish tank or in an air filter know that once they get loaded up, you essentially have to buy another filter and replace it. Believe it or not, the carbon in a UV catalyst, again, you get 8 to 10 years before that finally gets exhausted. Now, the key differences between the catalyst and the UV PhotoMax. The PhotoMax is when you know that you're dealing, you walk into the home as a contractor and you just sense that, boy, there is a tremendous amount of VOC load in here. You know, there's carpets, the place, you know, maybe the carpets are, 15 years old or plus, that sensation of this place really needs some air purification. You're going to go PhotoMax style because it gets into the ductwork and it has itself a little 30-second half-life of the technology actually going into the air. So the UV catalyst, everything occurs on the surface of the photocatalytic material, the carbon surface itself. Now, the differences between that and the PhotoMax, the catalyst only captures what it can capture, meaning the product itself, it's got 15 inches into the ductwork and about 6 inches wide. Now, that means there's area of the ductwork that's exposed, meaning that's not being attached to this technology as it goes through the air, or excuse me, as the VOCs travel through the air. So the catalyst works like the PhotoMax, but it takes longer to do so, but it's guaranteed no ozone production. The UV catalyst product is very popular, especially with elderly folks or people with any kind of compromised immune systems or COPD or any kind of breathing issues at all.
That's what I was getting at a while ago.
Yeah.
About the difference. Because, see, I'm sensitive to, even though I smoke, the way it was explained to me when I was trying to figure out which one I was going to buy was that the PhotoMax, once it cleans the air, it's going to go try to find other places to clean the air. And if that's inside your lungs, that's try to clean that part of it out. Is that correct?
Well, to a point. The technology has basically whatever is produced after the PhotoMax, and as it travels through the ductwork, 30 seconds, there's half of what it started, and another 30 seconds is half of, again, that. So it doesn't store up anywhere, depending on how much duct run that you have and how big a house is. And again, that's why it's adjustable. So properly installed, what you're shooting for is you really shouldn't be smelling the product. You know what I'm saying? But now, obviously, you can, everyone, we've had everything thrown at us, under the sun. Well, what if on Thanksgiving we burn the turkey? Can we turn it up? And it's, technically, yes, but unless you're an air conditioning contractor, you're not going to know how to turn it up or down. So it's a product that, again, it's very aggressive. It's really a good product.
Let's say that I bought the PhotoMax for a customer, and I went and took it to their house, and they were extremely sensitive to the PhotoMax. Is there, how do we handle that situation?
Oh, that's easy. The UV PhotoMax and the UV Catalyst are interchangeable with the electronics and the modules themselves. So
Right.
Ultravation offers a free exchange, if you will. So you can convert the PhotoMax to the catalyst and vice versa, the catalyst to the PhotoMax.
Oh, that's impressive.
Wow. So you mean if I wanted, well, I couldn't really. Yeah, I guess I could with my UVCat. If I, well, it's not really working. Could I take my UVCat and say, I want to exchange this for the PhotoMax? That's what you're saying.
Exactly what we do. Yeah, what we do. I mean, basically, for us, it's a 90-day satisfaction guarantee. As far as answering your question, if a consumer had a UV catalyst installed or a UV PhotoMax, and for whatever reason decided they wanted the other type of technology, the products are interchangeable. You just leave all the electronics right there. You take 4 screws out, remove the old base, if you will, meaning the photocatalytic portion of the product, and then you simply swap it, install the new one, reattach the 4 screws, everything, the electronics plug right in, and you're done in 15 minutes or less.
Now, I don't know anybody else that actually does that. You
No, there isn't anyone else that does it.
Negative.
No.
No.
When I was 28 when I started this company, and all we've ever done, myself and my engineering guys and the partners in the company, it's just been an effort to bring this technology to the marketplace, but letting customers pick and to have what they need, not simply, well, this is what we have, so you must take this choice. We manufacture all the latest technologies that are available in the marketplace. Some competitors offer the PhotoMax style product. Some competitors offer the UV Catalyst style product. Ultravation simply offers the latest technologies that are available. There are no other methods right now to achieving this utilizing ultraviolet lighting. So you have the best of both available. It typically comes down to contractor or consumer choice for which product they'd like to work with. And that simple thing, well, which one costs more? They cost the same. It really does come down to choice.
When people are talking about removing odors in people's houses, now we're talking about the Facebook groups. Me and Zack are part of HVAC Facebook groups and a lot of questions are, which product would people suggest? Now, the Remy, the Air Knife, the Air Guardian, all those get suggested. And I always tell people, the Ultravation. But number one thing is the Remy that people say. And which one of your products? I guess the PhotoMax is the one that's actually
the PhotoMax is the equivalent to the Remy. Now the Remy, what the name of it even means, the REME is reflective electromagnetic energy, which is a scientific way of saying ultraviolet light, or light for that matter. And the product has a titanium dioxide bed, just like the UV PhotoMax. There's a newer version of the Remy Halo, that is adjustable, just like the PhotoMax. The Remy Halo has 2 ionizing probes built into it. Our UV PhotoMax does not, but we actually manufacture a product called the Orion, in the Orion ionizer. So not to get off on a tangent, but yes, right now to get a like-for-like comparison, you would add our Orion to a UV PhotoMax to have all of the features that you would find with the Halo product. But the end result is, if you compare the two, you have adjustable photocatalytic oxidation, and you simply have the same. They work in the same premise, is what I'm saying. Now, the UV Catalyst, one of the most popular, you see 2 companies. There's Honeywell has their Air Bright, which is the same technology, and you have the Fresh Air Triatomic company. They have an APCO, which is Advanced Photocatalytic Oxidation. So that's the acronym. That's the name of their product. And again, works on the same premise with the carbon, the titanium dioxide, and ultraviolet light. Outside of that, those are we are the core manufacturers, well, meaning the RGF, the triatomic ultravation. I'm not aware, most other companies, someone else or maybe one is building product for them.
Right.
And it was actually more of an education thing for you guys, maybe not necessarily for your cast, but
No, the listeners will, it's a confusing subject, Scott. It really is. I mean, you're working with it every day, and and so it's easy for you to sit there and explain it to us. And I'm glad there's guys out there like you. I know Zack, it's confusing, isn't it, Zack?
It is confusing. I was going to actually return back for just one question, because you were talking about the UV PhotoMax, the difference between that and UV catalyst, and the catalyst you referred to as idiot-proof because it had the carbon. Now the UV PhotoMax said is adjustable based on how many or how much VOC is present. How do you ascertain how much VOC is present, and how do you make that adjustment? Is it basically just reactionary? The people say they smell this, so I turned it down. How does it work?
For the most part, that is the most simple way of saying yes. There's a scale, and the scale is based on the square footage, and there's a CFM or the CFM that of the area that's being treated by the air conditioning system. So you would first set it there, and as soon as you make that adjustment, that literally changes the amount of oxidation coming from the product. That would be the same, by the way, when you're talking about the Remy Halo, for example. Both of the products are adjustable. Now, if you look for what it's worth, for educational purposes, Ultravation gives you 5 inches of adjustment. You get 1 inch of adjustment with a Halo. And if you look at the amount of catalyst material available, you'll see that there is more available with a PhotoMax. Now, this isn't saying that this is a common sense thing that we do with the product, but the bottom line is you have more adjustment or more customer satisfaction levels with the UV PhotoMax, with the advanced oxidation technology, when you compare to that product. They both work. Both products work. They work very well.
Okay.
But in terms of, so both products is what I'm getting at. Both products that are adjustable, you literally would take the manufacturer's recommendation, you would install it. Then you would wait and see how your customer's reaction is. They're either very happy and you're all set, if you will, or there's some kind of concern. Now, when there's some kind of concern, this is what you do. You make adjustments. So if you can have the customer satisfaction within that adjustment that's available to you, that's fantastic. Now, we already touched on this. Guess what happens if the customer still says, I can smell something. Ultravation offers
I know.
swap out of the catalyst.
I know. Let me answer. We can take the PhotoMax out and switch it with a UVCat, where you can't take the Remy out and switch it with anything.
Right. You could take the Remy out if you needed to, and return it to a wholesale company if they would let you do that, and then you'd have to repurchase a whole nother product, which we recommend the UV Catalyst, of course. But reality, right. you would have to purchase another product. And some people are sensitive because when you're splitting the oxygen, when there's nothing else to break down with the VOCs, you asked earlier, is it generating ozone? Now, the ozone is a big word, just like ultraviolet lighting is a big word. And what I mean by that is, in the spectrum of ultraviolet light, you have UVA, UVB, and UVC. And we've been talking about the UVC spectrum as being germicidal. On the ozone production level, there's small amounts that are harmless, but meaning they're not going to cause any issue. But you actually have people that can be considered almost like allergic to it, or they have a reaction to just the trace amounts of it. They literally will tell you that they can taste almost a metallic-y taste, or their nose is running, right. Something like that. And believe it or not, you could have 5 people in the room and only one person having that reaction. So if that one person happens to be the homeowner, they're not a candidate for that technology. We've been finding more and more of a transition to the UV catalyst type technology, but to be honest, the other technology was available first before the carbon, and as you know, think of it in terms of hybrid or electronic cars. How many guys are going to get their, work truck and eagerly go out searching for the first, hybrid or Prius version of a, Ford, heavy duty 250 truck? You know what I'm trying to say here?
Exactly.
It's just,
I'm not going to.
It's why we build both products, and what we do is we provide education on how both products work. And over time, when people understand the differences, you see a gravitation towards the UV catalyst product. They both work. It's just the catalyst technically works slower because it doesn't get to have all of the air in the system go through it at the same time. We can't do that because it would be too restrictive. If we put enough catalyst material in there, it would be almost like trying to put a whole HEPA filter on an air conditioning system. We would be stopping too much of the airflow, which would cause chaos with the air conditioning system itself.
Oh, that's
Wow.
I guess this might be a stupid question, so I could edit it out if it is. You say that if there's not enough VOC, that it will split O2. Now, when it splits the O2, are each one of those pieces guaranteed to become O3, or some of them reform into O2? How does it work?
Yeah, there's no guarantee that it's going to be O3, but that's what happens. Meaning, if there was no other VOC available, meaning there was none of the coffee odor available that we spoke of, or the pets, the litter box or the dirty sock smell. If none of those VOCs are available and that oxygen splits, you got a quick, a small measurement of time, a small fraction of a second here. We're talking, it's faster than this conversation, that it may attach and make itself into that O3, for which, again, is going to be in existence for about 45 seconds to maybe 120 seconds, depending, because believe it or not, airspeed, temperature, humidity, everything plays a factor in the effectiveness of that type of product, of a PhotoMax type product. The UV catalyst is very stable, very consistent, because the reaction occurs on the surface. That's why it can't off-gas, create any ozone. That's why it doesn't need to be adjustable. It'll take what it can take, and then it just needs to keep cleaning itself with the ultraviolet light.
Does the let's say the catalyst, does it split O2 but then combine to make CO2? Is that the way that it solves that issue?
The catalyst just never makes the catalyst never splits it just does not ever cannot make any ozone. You're just having the photocatalytic processing taking place between the silver, zinc ions, the carbon, and the titanium dioxide. It's all happening on the surface and within the matrix of the carbon. You have 3 panels, if you will, of carbon in a UV catalyst product. Any competitive company just offers 1 panel of carbon. We simply, by putting the product on the marketplace, we knew that putting 3 panels would give that kind of result that a homeowner and contractors could see and benefit from. And we have a patent on that design. Sometimes you guys know how small the planet, or plenum space is becoming prime real estate. So the equipment needs to, IAQ products need to keep getting smaller. So you literally sometimes couldn't physically fit 3 of a competitor's carbon panels, you know what I mean, into the plenum that would be available. So the UV catalyst with its 3 panels of carbon literally gives even the UV PhotoMax a good run for its money.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I have plenty of room in my plenum, but now you offer a smaller UVCat light, right?
I was gonna say we have a UV Advantage product, and we do offer upgrades to our traditional UV lighting products that have 1 strip of carbon. And again, as you can imagine, if you and I were staring at the Chevrolet lot and the Ford lot, we have to have direct competitive models to our competitors to help consumers make choices as well as contractors. So we do offer what we would refer to as entry-level UV products, and sometimes those are because a contractor chooses to install products when someone buys a brand new air conditioning system from them to help eliminate the bio load on the coil, but they want them to get a taste of the advanced oxidation. So then at that, they're always available to upgrade, if you will. Just like if you bought yourself, a Honda Civic, and then, you wanted to upgrade to the Accord, at the end of your lease, you sure can.
Right.
Because that's why we make different products, but they all function the same way. It's just a question of, again, if the 3 panels of carbon obviously is 3 times more effective than our single panel of carbon on our.
The single panel is pretty much disposable, right? Is that after the bulb runs out, you pretty much. But it's fairly inexpensive.
Right. Any of the carbon panels will last 8 to 10 years. Any of the UV lamps need to be changed, recommended on an annual basis, mandatory on a 2-year basis. We do make some lamps that are designed, for 2-year lamp life, meaning they're
right.
Our entry level. We have entry level products that, you really should change the lamps at the end of a year. And then we do have some that, no, go ahead. They're designed to run for 2 years. In the industry, there's really nothing past that. It's all about runtime hours. So you're looking at either 9,000 hours is roughly a year, 18,000 hours, of course, roughly 2.
I always run my fan in the on position because I just think, I have a UV light and I have one of your filters. So, as long as my fan's running in the on position, then it's working. But now what about the people that don't run their fan in on position? No harm there, right?
There's no harm. The products, energized. It's working on anything if it's present. The thing is, once the consumers realize that, again, this would be like going out and spending good money on a room air cleaner, a portable room air cleaner. And if you're getting the benefits of that portable air cleaner in that room, that would be identical to unplugging the cord and staring at the air cleaner wondering why it's not working. So
exactly. On the PhotoMax, though, you wouldn't want to turn the fan off because all that, to me, it's just there would be a big concentration.
Right. And again, we're, reason number, 55 here why this product or all these products are designed to be installed by professionals, because contractors installing this technology have an understanding of all the variables. So if you're faced with a system that, let's say it, could only go on or off, and you didn't have a variable speed fan or anything like that, that right off the bat, the educated contractor, you're going to go, you should probably go UV catalyst. Or you're going to explain to the person, you're going to explain to them, hey, this is what's going to happen with this type of technology, which, by the way, any competitive product with this similar technology, we'd have the same concerns. So again, that's why it's important for contractors to be educated on what's available to them. And you can see just by this question the variables that come in the field, why we manufacture both types of products. So if you've got a variable speed and that fan is always going, and like I said, say that the man loves to smoke a pipe and the wife can't stand it, the PhotoMax is going to be quicker, if you will, more aggressive, and that's going to bring both of those people the comfort that they're looking for faster, if you will. They both have a place. The UV catalyst over time, I think you'll see, will win out over the whole the PhotoMax type technology. But there's no reason for it to be that way. Again, it's just that one of the technologies, if there's no VOCs to work on, you're going to smell, if you will, the splitting of the oxygen if it's not adjusted properly. And the other one, you're not going to have that. But the other one, it takes 3 or 4 times as long to get the same kind of performance. So hence the debate on which product, you should have. And we always like to put it in the hands of the contractors after they understand how both technologies work based on the customer that they're dealing with.
Well, the distributor is the one that really needs a lot of training as well, because, we can look into it, but we depend on those guys mostly to answer our questions. And unfortunately, the counter guys, they don't know. A lot of them, when they get off at 5 o'clock, they go home. They're not thinking about work.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a gap sometimes between a guy on a counter with indoor air quality products in the contractor, I agree with you on that. And I think it comes down to if you're geared towards you need a certain size motor or fuse or transformer, those things are tangible, and that's easy to do. When you're asking a counter guy, which oxidation product is going to be best for this particular customer, that probably, in our respect, should look at you and go, I don't know, we'll see what we have on the shelf.
Right, exactly. Now, I'm fortunate at Ed Supply. We have a salesman there. His name's Tom Nichols. You probably know him.
Yeah.
And he's really, this is passionate about it.
He's passionate about indoor air quality. Tom is a guy that he'll call.
Yes.
He'll ask. He'll call me. Literally, I got Tom's cell phone. He calls me. He's a guy that will do his research, and he really knows his stuff, which is fortunate because Ed Supply has been an Ultravation partner for 10 years, and they do a great effort on trying to educate guys. And Tom himself definitely is one of those guys that has, taken his passion for indoor air quality and been able to help by educating guys such as yourselves, which is helping us all. Because like you said, understanding this technology is key.
Make sure you stay tuned next week, July the 4th, as Part 2 with Scott Russell from Ultravation airs. Also, check out our YouTube channel, Working Joe's Roundtable. A lot more than just podcasts. We have HVAC videos and your chance to comment on what you hear on the podcast.